Hello. Okay, I'm getting ready to do the read. The daily read. We're on page 212. We're on page 212. Okay. Hey Siri. Set timer. Set timer for 10 minutes. I'm horrible with technology. Okay, no, I'm not. I'm great. I'm getting better every day. We're starting at chapter 2. Dom Fume's Mysterious Directions. Bulger and I set out for Petersburg and thence proceed to Archangel. The story of our journey as far as Illich on the Illich. Ivan the Teamster, how we made our way northward in search of the portals to the world within a world, Ivan's threat, Bulger's distrust of the man, and other things. According to the learned Don Fume's manuscript, the portals to the world within a world were situated somewhere in northern Russia, possibly, so he thought, from all indications, somewhere on the westerly slope of the Upper Urals. But the great thinker could not locate them with any accuracy. The people will tell thee, was the mysterious phrase that occurred again and again on the mildewed pages of this wonderful writing. The people will tell thee. Ah, but what people will be learned enough to tell me that? Was the brain-racking question which I asked myself, sleeping and waking, at sunrise, at high noon, and at sunset, at the crowing of the cock and in the silent hours of the night. The people will tell thee, said learned Don Fume. Ah, but what people will tell me where to find the portals to the world within a world? Hitherto on my travels I had made choice of a semi-oriental garb, both on account of its picturesqueness and its lightness and warmth. But now, as I was about to pass quite across Russia for a number of months, I resolved to don the Russian national costume, for speaking Russian fluently as I did a score or more of languages, living and dead, I would thus be enabled to come and go without everlastingly displaying my passport or having my train of thought constantly disturbed by inquisitive traveling companions. A very important thing to me, for my mind possessed the extraordinary power of working out automatically any tasks assigned to it by me, provided it was not suddenly thrown off its tracks by some ridiculous interruption. For instance, I was upon the very point one day of discovering perpetual motion, when the gracious Baroness suddenly opened the door and asked me whether I had pared the nails of my great toes lately, as she had observed that I had worn holes in several pairs of my best stockings. It was about the middle of February when I set out from the Castle Trump, and I journeyed night and day in order to reach Petersburg by the 1st of March, for I knew that the government trains would leave that city for the White Sea during the first week of that month. Bulger and I were both in the best of health and spirits, and the fatigue of the journey didn't tell upon us in the least. The moment I arrived at the Russian capital, I applied to the Emperor for permission to join one of the government trains, which was most graciously accorded. Our route lay almost directly to the northward for several days, at the end of which time we reached the shores of Lake Ladoga. This we crossed on the ice with our sledges, as a few days later we did Lake Onega. Thence by land again we kept on our way until Onega Bay had reached, crossing it too on the ice, and so reaching the station of that same name, where we halted for a day to give our horses a well-deserved rest. From this point we proceeded in a straight line over the snow fields to Archangel, an important trading post on the White Sea. As this was the destination of the government train, I parted with its commandant after a few days' pleasant sojourn at the government house, and set out, attended only by my faithful Bulger and 2 servants, who had been assigned to me by the imperial commissioner. According to the learned Don Fume's manuscript, the portals to the world within a world were situated somewhere in northern Russia, possibly, so he thought, from all indications, somewhere on the westerly slope of the upper Urals. But the great thinker could not locate them with any accuracy. "The people will tell thee," was the mysterious phrase that occurred again and again on the mildewed pages of this wonderful writing. "The people will tell thee." Ah, but what people will be learned enough to tell me that, was the brain-racking question which I asked myself, sleeping and waking at sunrise, at high noon, and at sunset, at the crowing of the cock, and in the silent hours of the night. "The people will tell thee," said learned Don Fume. Ah, but what people will tell me where to find the portals to the world within a world. Hitherto on my travels, I had made choice of a semi-oriental garb, both on account of its picturesque in the middle of the night castle trombone journey days. I just read that, didn't I? Weird. Is that the same page? Weird, it's the exact same stuff. Departure from Castle Trump. My course now carried me up the river Dwina as far as Solvitchedovsk. Thence I proceeded on my way over the frozen waters of the Wichegda River until we had reached our government post of Urensk. From here we headed due east until our hardy little horses had dragged us into the picturesque village of Ilich on the Ilich. Here we were obliged to abandon our sledges, for the snows had disappeared like magic, uncovering long vistas of green fields, which in a few days in the May sun dotted with flowers and sweet shrubs. At Ilich I was obliged to relinquish from my service the two faithful government retainers who had accompanied me from Archangel, and for they had now reached the most westerly point which they had been commissioned to visit. I had become very much attached to them, and so had Bulger, and after their departure we both felt as if we were now for the first time among strangers in this strange land. But I succeeded in engaging, as I thought, a trustworthy teamster, Ivan by name, who made a contract for me with a goodly wage to carry me 100 miles farther north. "But not another step farther, little baron," said the fellow doggedly. I was now really at the foothills of the northern Urals, for the rocky crests and the snow-clad peaks were in full sight. I had turned many a wistful look up toward the wild regions, shut in by their sheer walls and parapets, shaggy and bristling with black pines, for low, mysterious voice came a whispering in my inward ear that somewhere in that awful wilderness, I should one day come upon the portals of the world within a world. In spite of all I could do, Bulger took a violent dislike to Ivan, and Ivan to him, and the bargain had not been made, and the money paid over, I should have looked about me for another teamster, and yet it would have been a foolish thing to do, for Ivan had 2 excellent horses, as I saw at a glance, and what's more, he took the best care of them at every post, rubbing them until they were quite dry, and never thinking of his own supper until they had been watered and fed. His Tarantus, too, was quite new and solidly built, and well furnished with soft blankets, all in all as comfortable as you can make a wagon, which has no other springs than the 2 long wooden supports that reach from axle to axle. True, they were somewhat elastic, but I could notice that Bulger was not overfond of riding in his curious vehicle, with its rattly bang gait up and down these mountain roads, and often asked permission to leap out and follow on foot. At length, Ivan reported everything in readiness for the start, and although I would have fain taken my departure from Ilich on the Ilich in as quiet a manner as possible, yet the whole village turned out to see us off. Ivan's family, mother, father, sisters and brothers, wife and children, uncles and aunts and cousins by dozens alone, making up people enough to stock a small town. They cheered and waved their kerchiefs. Bulger barked, and I smiled and raised my cap with all the dignity of a trump. And so we got away at last from Illich on the Illich, Ivan on the box, and Bulger and I at the back, sitting close together like two brothers that we were, two breasts but with a single heartbeat, and two brains busy with the same thought, that come perils or come sudden attacks, come covert danger or bold and open-faced onslaught, we should stand together and fall together. Many and many a time, as Ivan's horses went crawling up the long stretches of the mountain road, and I laid stretched upon the broad cushioned seat of the Tarantus, with a blanket rolled up for a pillow, I would find myself unconsciously repeating those mysterious words of Don Fumes. The people will tell thee, the people will tell thee. So, 10 minutes. We're going to start there next time. Page 216 is where we're ended. And page 212 is where we started. Okay, kids. Quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun, honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor my journey. I am a slave to my own incessant urge to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch, love animals. Leave life to wander all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus. Lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. Enjoy your day.